Each controller class consists of functions, or sometimes called actions. Those functions have a naming convention as well. First, they're camel-cased, starting with a lowercase first word. There's also no underscore separating the two words. Some examples would be cakes, or perhaps favorite cookies, where favorite is lowercase but the cookies has a capital C. In our controllers, we sometimes need the ability to have extra functions that aren't accessed from the outside world. In this case, we would preface those functions with an underscore. So for example, we would have underscore find latest recipe. You'll notice that we still keep the camel case with a lowercase first word. Let's go back to our newly created controller and add a couple functions. I still have my items controller open. In order to make this a complete controller, we need to add extends app controller. We'll discuss the app controller in more detail later in this course. There is a default function for all controllers called index. This function is displayed when just the controller class is entered in the URL. Let's go ahead and create that function now. Let's create a function that is not reserved for default loading. Start with public function. Since we are still in the items controller, we would probably want to have a function that would allow us to search those items. So we'll call this function search. Now we're going to create a protected or a private function. When dealing with items, we sometimes need to have the total count of the items in our catalog. This is a number that we would reference often, but we don't want necessarily the outside world to access the function directly. We're just going to type public function, and then to designate that it's a private or a protected function, we'll start the name of the function with an underscore, followed by count, all lowercase, and then a capital I for items. Now anything that we put inside this function will not be accessible from the outside world. We have just created a few functions in our controller with the proper CakePHP naming conventions.